The purpose of this video is to talk to you about the online course requirements for many of our graduate programs at this point in time. The courses generally run for 8 weeks, and even when they meet for 4 hours a night, it does not quite meet the number of minutes that we require to have with our students. So for each week that you meet, we have added in some minutes of online course time. So in order to see what that minute requirement is for your particular course, for example, you can go into the course on WebAdvisor and just click on the course, and this one is currently running, and it'll give the times, and it usually says online days TBA and times TBA. But down here at the bottom where it says section comments, it will say requirement is 45 minutes per week. So this particular course is requiring 45 minutes per week, and that probably is generally what is required, but some courses may have more or may have less depending upon the times that the courses meet. So in this video, what I hope to do is to give you 3 ideas, and there's lots more that you can do with your students online, but these are 3 things that you can do, assignments that you can make for your students to complete. And so the first assignment that I want to talk about is VoiceThread, and I'm going to go into a course that I currently have, and in order to set up VoiceThread, you click on Add an Activity, and then you're going to click on External Tool. And it will come up, and I'm just going to give this a name. I'm going to call it my pretend VoiceThread, because I'm going to erase this after I finish this. And then under the pre-configured tool, that's where you're going to click on VoiceThread, and then you go down to the bottom of your screen and save and return to the course. Okay, and then what you'll have is on your, in the section where you added that, you'll have this VoiceThread, and you click on that again, and then you're going to choose course view or individual view. So I'm just going to choose course view. It's a little bit easier with that. And once you do that, you will get a screen that says no voice threads. You want to create one. So you're going to create one by clicking here and create a new voice thread, and then you get this click here where it says add media. And you can put in a voice thread that has you speaking to the students. So when I click on that, I can do a webcam photo. I can do an audio recording, or I'm thinking this is not showing everything. Let me come down here a little bit. Okay. Or you could do something from your computer, so that you could give written directions to your students here from something from your computer. I'm not going to take the time to create a webcam here, but usually you can do the directions for your students in 2 or 3 minutes, and then then you give the students the directions in class and show them how to get to the voice thread, how to watch your directions, and then once there is a video here that they can click on and watch, at the bottom there will be a little button that they click on, and then they add their response. So you tell them what their response. They are either required to do a webcam video or an audio response. You can have them do a written response, but you can have that in so many other ways that you probably want to have them either do audio or webcam. Usually what I do is I have my students do a webcam response to a question or a prompt, and then I ask them to watch at least one other person's, and sometimes 2 or 3, depending on what the response is. And then they need to respond to that. And then I say you can respond with audio or you can respond with writing. So that's also an option that they can make there. So the time that it would take them, depending on the direction. So maybe they need to read something and then give a response. So that one extra assignment could be the 45 minutes of weekly online time that you need to do. I'm just going to go back to this course and I'm going to make that not visible so my students don't know. Don't look at that and say, oh, why is that there? Okay, so I'm going to hide that for right now. Okay, so a second thing that you can do is you can add a forum, and that's a discussion forum, and many of you may have already used these, but that's also under Add an Activity, and here you just choose forum. Okay, so again, you put in a forum name and you put a description, and you can make this attached to grades, so you could choose to give a grade for it. You could, sometimes what I do in the forum name is I say this forum, maybe it's on fluency, is for, and then I put 4 students' names so that 4 students are in this forum and they're talking to each other. And then I might put in the directions, over the course of the week, you need to have 3 entries, or 4 or 7, or however many you think is reasonable for them. And then you give them the directions, how many times they need to post something and how many times they need to respond to someone else's post. You can have a forum where the whole class is interacting. Sometimes that gets a little bit confusing, or it's a lot for the students to read, and there's more of a conversational feel if it's 4 or 5 of them. So again, depending on what you've had them read and how they are interacting with that, this could take up your 45 minutes. Okay, a third idea that I want to share with you is using Google Docs. So I'm going to go into my Google Documents and I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that I've used this with students this semester. So one was I had the students look at the Newbery Award winners, and then I set up this chart that had the name of the student and the year that they were going to look at. So Abigail was looking at 2017, the most recent Newbery winners. And the Newbery always gives an award and at least 2 or 3, sometimes as many as 5 honor books. So what I said is just choose 3 of those books, choose the award winning, and then 2 of the honor books. And I wanted them to give me the title, the gender of the main character, the race of the main character, and any disability that was apparent in the book, whether it was the main character or not. And so each student, they didn't have to read these books, but they had to look at a description of the book in order to gather this information. And each student looked at a different year. So we went back, because we have 21 students in the class, all the way back to 1997. And then and this was done on a Google Doc, so everybody's information is here in one place. And then before class, the next week, I asked everyone to look at this whole document and to think about any patterns that they were seeing in this document. So again, they had their instructions were given to them through a Word document that was posted on the Moodle class. They had to look at the website, they had to explore the books, and then they had to make some determinations about their individual books. And then finally, when everybody was finished with the document, they had to go back and look at it and think about what patterns they were seeing. So this would have taken anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. So again, maybe an average of 45 minutes. Okay, another thing that I do with Google Docs is just asking them questions, and it's sort of like a forum in that sense. So this, again, as I set up this Google Doc, I said, these this one is for Abigail, Allison, Amy, and Brenna. So I asked a question, and they all had readings on fluency, and then they responded to the question. And part of my directions were to be sure and look at what the other students were saying as they responded. So Brenna had put her response in first. I put their names in the chart, and that way I know who's saying what. But Brenna had responded first. So all three of the other ones says, oh, I agree with Brenna, or I agree with Brenna and Allison. And that's fine. But I just want to make sure that they really are reading. Then what I did with this document is I went through it and I highlighted, or I put some things in red that I wanted to bring up in class. So rather than having this open discussion in class where I get ideas from Brenna or Abigail or whoever, now I have a place with this document where I can say, oh, these are some important points they were making, and I want to make sure that we talk about these important points in class. So in this particular activity, I had the same questions for all of the students. They just had different documents. They had like 4 students per document. But sometimes you could do this where maybe Abigail's group is reading one article and they respond with questions I give them, and then there's another group that's reading a second article, and maybe even another group that's reading a third article. And so again, you get these responses. Then you could do in class a jigsaw activity with that. So we're going to be putting out some more ideas of things that you can do with your online materials, but this is just to get you started and to make sure that everyone is aware that you do need to be doing some online teaching. And these are just a couple of ideas of ways that you can get started. If you have technical questions, I'd be glad to try to help you with those. You can also contact 410-617-5555, which is our tech services, and they should be able to help you with any technical questions that you might have. Okay, thanks a lot. We appreciate it.